we could accomplish because of the technology. Because what you have at the end is, okay, so now you have this where we find out that she doesn't have the plant in her stomach, right? And we don't know why. We haven't been told yet that auto is bad and that this little robot has stolen it from her, right? So she's defective. She's gonna go off, and while he's gonna go get cleaned, he gets like thrown in like a dog pen, basically, right? He cuts his way out of that. He takes her arm and shoots the security. Now, so all the broken robots get out, and they're going crazy, throwing him up in the air because he's savior. He saved them. Yay, you got us out of prison. This is when she takes her arm back, and it looks like she's getting ready to shoot everybody. Whoa. That doesn't play as well in 19 as it did in 2008. But so the cautions go up everywhere. This was after the scene where Wally is cutting through and knocks the guy out of the floaty chair because he was trying to give him his cup. And he's like, "That's my buddy Wally," which is great. That's a little later on. That's John, who John is. I can't remember the voice actor, but he's in every Pixar movie. He plays Rex in Toy Story. He plays Mac in Cars, and but I can't remember his name. He in fact in Cars 2, I believe it is. At the end, he makes fun of the fact that they just keep using the same voice for all their characters. So that's one of the things that happen. But anyway, going back to the scene, now the real craziness happens. The security bots come out. They're trying to stop her. They're telling everyone that they're dangerous. This is where the scene with Burn E, which we'll get back to that at the end. This is where these hijinks start happening, where Eve is trying to send Wally back to Earth, and the little robot comes in, and this is when you find out that he's a snake, because he puts the boot with the plant in an escape pod and goes to send it back to Earth. And this is now Wally goes in to get it and gets sent out an escape pod.
Yeah, and he gets thrown out. Sure,
right. And this is a great scene that it blows up. He's flying around in space with a fire extinguisher. Blast right past her, and all you, Eva, Wally.
It's so classic. That scene, you see that in so many other movies or even animated. This scene, again, that scene promotes nostalgia for me because I have seen stuff like that before, but put into a movie as futuristic as Wall-E made me chuckle a little bit.
Absolutely. Now, leading into this, when the Axiom was first coming into, when the Eve unit was first getting to the Axiom, you see all the stars and the galaxies in Wall-E's face, in his eyes and everything. And my daughter was cute. She's like, "Oh, he's stargazing." And I'm like, where did you come up with that word? But he was. I mean, that's not untrue. The first time he sees the Axiom, though, it's behind the nebula that's in his eye is actually called the Horsehead Nebula. That's what he's looking at. And so then they dock. All this stuff happens. We end up moving forward. And because of technology, the captain doesn't just give up. He doesn't give up the idea. Now he starts looking into what is Earth.
Right.
Because remember, while he shakes his hand, gets a little bit of dirt, he tells the computer to check it out. And he starts looking into Earth, and he's learning about dancing. And as that's happening, this scene is happening with them dancing in space.
Yeah. And it's, we did a rant on what technology was bad about. This movie is now showing you, like you said, what technology can do to better humanity.
Absolutely.
And at this point, this is where the message comes in and what we can do to better humanity. What is it? So we do research.
Yeah, where's the balance?
What do we do? Where's the balance between?
They're living 130, even though that cut back from the 160, but now they're living 130 years. That's technology. Him being able to look up he keeps saying, define Earth, define sea, define hoedown, define pizza, define farming, define dancing. These are all things he knew nothing about, and would still know nothing about if it wasn't for the fact of it's not the internet. But I mean, really, they're making a commentary on the internet and the good uses of the internet at this point, right?
Yes, and, they're using.
I can tell you for a fact, my son is 9 years old. He knows more about the Titanic than I do today at 38, because when I was a kid, I did like the story of the Titanic. It's very romanticized, the story. Right. And so you try and look it up, but we didn't have. My son puts in Titanic. There's 800 videos on YouTube about it, and there's 10,000 articles he's read, and he's gotten to the point where he can now decipher the difference between legitimate Titanic stories and garbage.
Yeah.
So, he's only 9.
Yeah.
That's the good things that can happen with the internet.
That's correct. And it stems from messages like this. It stems from, what they see, what they hear, what the kid sees and hears. This is where good uses of technology come into play. It's when society goes on a bad route. And again, we don't mean to go on this, but in a way it falls in with the movie, but you have the good route and the bad route. Where's the balance? Like you've been saying, it's about the balance. It's about the balance. But when it tips the scales and goes to the negative, that's where the problem starts.
Right. That's when you end up in floaty chairs looking at screens and not walking, not even knowing how to walk. I mean, so.
And if you notice, every one of them
stood up like toddlers.
Was not, and they weren't physically fit because they were in the chair watching the screens.
Which was supposed to be and here's a Star Trek reference, a 5-year mission. That's what it was supposed to be. So now it's likely that this ship, the Axiom, was also used as a cruise ship. So we were doing cruises to the stars instead of cruises like on, the ocean. Because when they do show you the A113 directive, which comes up in a few minutes in this movie, what ends up happening is you actually see messages that were sent earlier than 700 years ago. So they must have been sending messages to the ship when it was out in space as a cruise ship, which makes sense. It's got a giant pool. It's got all these perfect walkways. So, look, if you want to sit in floaty chairs for your week-long vacation cruise, that's not terrible. That's not the worst idea ever. No. I go on cruises because I get pampered. That's why I enjoy them. You don't do anything. It's relaxing. When you do it for 700 years, there's a problem.
Well, yeah, because every day becomes like the Dunkin' Donuts guy, or the time to make the donuts. The Dunkin' Donuts guy. It's got to go up and do it again. Got to go up and do it again. There's virtual limbo dancing on the Lido deck. And this is where, it becomes into play. And you're right. There are times when people, just want to go out and relax. But there's also those that follow the clipboard, or what I like to call the clipboard fun, which is the schedule of the day, because it keeps them active. Either way, it's whatever makes you comfortable.
Exactly.
That's what this is. Exactly.
And unfortunately, that comfort to an extreme, anything to an extreme, is a problem.
Sure, it becomes a negative.
Exactly, and that's what they're trying. I feel they're trying to tell us by telling us it was a 5-year mission turned into a 700-year mission. Because remember, so when the captain comes on to do his message, right, and he goes into this whole turning the day back, and he does his morning commute. He says it's 255 day 640 600. It's 255,642nd day, which would work out to roughly 700 years, because he also says it's the 700th year anniversary. Now, when you times 365 times 700, it works out to 255, 500 or something like that. So we're close, but they do also say that it's a 25-hour day, so that should throw all the numbers off. Right. So it's a little confusing. But then again, years have leap years, which they wouldn't in space, and whatever. Those are the numbers they gave us. It's probably slightly off somewhere, but the math is fairly sound, which is pretty good.
That's, again, attention to detail, because I would have never guessed it. And if it happens to be a 25-hour day, that's an extra day on the Lido deck next to the pool.
Right, an extra hour, yeah.
An extra hour.
Yeah, so now we find out that they're in league, and now he finds out, the captain finds out, that Otto is bad. Mm-hmm. And he's talking about mutiny and trying to get the ship back, and he has to go home. And that really hits you hard at that point, because he now realizes we have to take care of home. This isn't home. And so that first line where he's like, no, we have to take care of home. That's big. But then there's that little bit of pause where Otto says, on the Axiom, you survive. He goes, I don't want to survive. I want to live. none of that. I believe none of that reaction happens if he doesn't watch all the movies, and because he's been out in space forever, he thinks that you can grow pizza plants, which is great.
Oh, I'm still waiting for that.
And apparently pepperoni pizza plants, but
that's fine. That's fine.
You know, so now there's a big fight, and we see that they get rid of they get the plant back, but they stop Eve again. They shoot Wally down the trash compactors, and we have these big wall A units, I guess, because they were waste
The
allocation load
predecessors of-
lifters
yes.
axiom class.
Yeah.
But they end up crushing them. She gets them out, but he's pretty banged up now. Now this is getting heartfelt because Wally's really beaten up.
This becomes Wally's loss of consciousness or amnesia, per se.
Well, that's what it starts as, yes.
It starts as amnesia. So Eve knows the Wally that she knows, but Wally doesn't know her.
Well, that's
So
the very
Eve
end. We're
tries-
jumping ahead a little here.
Oh, sorry.
Because before that, now we have this part. She goes looking for the chip. She can't find a chip that would work for him.
Right.
He ends up, what really does him in isn't even this scene. It's a little bit later when she goes to put the plant in because the captain fights back. And that's a great scene when he finally gets out of the chair. Dum, dum, dum.
Yeah.
Dum, dum. And he attacks, Otto at that point.
Otto, yeah.
Presses the button. Everyone gets rushed to the pool deck. The pool deck closes on the Lido deck. They all get rushed to see this, and the big hollow life emitter thing, I forget what they called it, pops up. Eve's trying to get it there, and Otto is trying to shut it down.
Right.
And all the people, Otto turns, everyone falls. It doesn't make sense. Eve falls, but she's flying, so she shouldn't have. But she does. Drops the plant, and the plant goes flying off. And at this point, everyone falls out of their chairs and is sliding down.
Yeah.
And you have a great, funny scene where it's Mary and John.
Yeah,
Wally,
and
that's my buddy Wally. And she's like, John, you better be ready to have some kids.
And here comes the 12 of them all coming down, and they grab them, and it looks like one giant pyramid.
Yep.
It looks like one giant pyramid.
And they knock
I remember.
Eve
That
out of the way.
was a funny scene. Yeah.
So Wally's back trying to hold this thing open because Otto is pushing it down, up in the control room. She pushed the button to close it, and he's getting crushed. He's fighting it back. Now, this is a little unrealistic. She's pushing the button harder, so it comes down harder. That's not how any of this works.
Really? I thought if you push an elevator button several times,
it's
it makes
so
the
funny.
elevator go faster.
It's so funny because my wife said to me, she goes, that's not how that works at all. And I go, no, it's not. Just like when you push an elevator button 800 times, it doesn't go to 2 faster. So
That just killed my reasoning.
So now Wally's really crushed and done for. So we have to get back to Earth. And we do, because Eve eventually gets the plant back. And it's awesome the way that happens, because everyone pitches in. The people who have not gotten out of their chairs their entire lives, because they show you them as babies. As babies, they're in floaty bassinets. These people all band together, and they're able to start tossing and catching. And the best one is the last one, because the guy tosses it, and the umbrella goes poof and pings it up to him.
It pings it up on him.
She puts it in, it raises, so Wally's not completely destroyed. But for all intents and purposes, Wally's dead at this point.
Yes.
And it's heartbreaking.
Yes,
It's
it
not
is.
even as heartbreaking as the next scene, though. They get back to Earth. They come out. She goes racing off to Wally's house. She finds all the parts. She takes his eyes off, puts new eyes on, which is... Now we know why they showed us the scene in the beginning of the movie with him doing this, right? Fixing himself.
Yes.
So it's like Chekhov's extra computer parts. So we have this scene.
Hashtag track reference.
Yeah. She shoots the ceiling out because you couldn't just carry him outside now that you destroyed his home. But to get sunlight on him, he wakes up and he's a brand new unit.
Yeah.
He's not Wally. I mean, he's a Wally, but he's just any other Wally at this moment.
Yeah, he's not the Wally we've known for the last hour and some odd minutes. It's really, you're right. It really is a heartbreaking scene because this is where emotion comes into play without audio. You can tell just by looking at Eva, just by her trying to have Wally recognize who she is. He's completely blank. It's a blank slate. That's what it is. And she's trying to have him realize it's me, and he just looks at him, and though it's